Chapter 1 of The Haunted Island by E.H. Visiak. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Ben Tucker. The Haunted Island by E.H. Visiak. Chapter 1. Scampering Away. On Christmas Eve, 1668, I, Francis Clayton, was with my brother Dick at Clayton Manor, our father's house. 'Tis seated on the bottom of a bay near Wimberry, on the sea-coast of Devon. My brother served in quality of lieutenant on board His Majesty's ship Tiger, and was but late returned from a cruise off the island of Jamaica. His ship lay at anchor in the bay. We sat over against one another on the hearth in my little snug room. The squire and the servants were abed. The great old house slept, with starting and creaking of the timbers. The fire was sunk together, burning with a clear glow. The candles were wasted to the snuff in their sockets. My brother told a marvelous tale of the South Sea, of an island there haunted by spirits, particularly by a monstrous great ghoul or devil. "Many rumors," said he, "are gotten abroad of this enchanted island. 'Tis said that he who laid up the treasure had a truck with the devil, and that a frightful fiend hath guard over it. I do certainly know 'tis there. As to the rest, I am nothing concerned with such fantastic gear. Once ashore there," said he, "and not all the devils in hell shall keep me from the treasure. Yet if seamen who have seen the thing be not extremely out, 'tis a pretty white. The head of it, say they, reaches unto the clouds, and the appearance of it is frightful out of all description." There came a sudden tap-tapping in the wainscoting. It was no doubt but a rat, but I must confess I shrank with fear of it, whereupon my brother clapped me boisterously on the shoulder, saying, "Hello, my land captain, did you think it was the ghost from the haunted island? I'll show you something to cheer you up." Hereupon, clapping hand to pocket, he plucked forth a little box or casket. It was of gold, very cunningly wrought with the representation of a galleon. And her hull was of rubies, her sails of pearls, her flag and flowing pendants of emeralds and sapphires, and the sea of amethyst. It was exquisite, and I said so, but my brother bade me read what was written on a piece of parchment that he took from the box and laid open before me. "I know you like poesy," said he. "Read it. 'Tis better than a sonnet to my lady's shoe-latchet." The writing was old and small, and thus it was. "Go you not nigh the island, captain, go you not close abroad, for death would ride on every side, and hell on your steerboard. As I was sailing the sea, captain, beyond the Mexique Bay, a mickle blast the good ship cast, a monstrous long south way. Blind ran the ship as a blind antler, and ever her beside there rode a drear and hooded fear, till we the isle espied. We anchored off the island, captain, we lay off cables 4. I swear by bell 'twas mickle well we went not nearer shore. It came in the midnight hour, captain, as God's eye seeth me. I never weened that such a fiend in earth or hell might be. Praise to the Mother of God, captain, be praise and gramercy. An image stood of the blessed rood, nailed to our mainmast tree." Here the ballad was broken off. I asked what it was, but had never answer. For, on a sudden, a summons loud and long sounded upon the manor door. "Hello, what's this?" cried I, but my brother said nothing, only got from his chair and stepped to the casement, as I did also. He drew the shutter, and we peered without upon the avenue. 'Twas a wintry and a weird prospect. The moon shone bleak through the scantily falling snow, which was flurried about in drifts of powder on the frozen ground. The tall elms stood gauntly up, the smaller branches of them stirring in sudden movements, like hands and fingers. But at the great door there was a little fat man in the uniform of the captain of a king's ship. He stood panting, his face fiery red, and kept pummeling with his cane upon the flagstones. "Why, 'tis the captain of your ship," said I. "'Tis Captain Skenton." But, muttering in his teeth, Dick turned and hurried from the room. I followed to find him at the end of the corridor, warily withdrawing the arras. We looked through. The captain addressed the serving man who had opened to him, and was beside himself with passion. He spoke in rapid and high-pitched tones, and with robustious gesticulation. We caught a tail end. "That I see Squire Clayton this night." "But he's abed, your honor," says Roger. "Then wake him! Wake him! Wake him!" cried the little man, and stamping by misadventure a gouty foot, he broke into a paroxysm of rage, just as the squire, our father, came forth on the gallery of the stairs. "What's this? What's this?" says he, looking down in his nightcap.
"What's this, sir?"
cries Skinton, his voice rising shrill.
"What's this, sir? Why, your son, sir! A conspiracy, sir! A conspiracy aboard my ship! My ship, sir!"
"Roger," says the squire, "how came you to admit this neighing rascal? Show him into the stable." Hereupon the captain became perfectly furious, but the squire returned him word for word as hot as he gave, so that there fell a very great clamour, and in the hurly-burly Dick stole past them into the hall, I following, and so, the door having been left open, out into the night. We scoured down the avenue, crossed the road beyond, and, striking into the countryside, cut crisply across the frozen fields to the cliff-top, then down, helter-skelter, to the shore. A great ship lay at an anchor close in, with her sails hauled up in brails. It was the Tiger. Her captain's boat lay beached above the breakers, and her crew walked up and down to keep them warm. My brother stepped to the coxswain. "'Tis I, John," said he, as he got back his breath, and to the rest he said, "Back to the ship, men, our plans are at a head. All's ready. I'll make all your fortunes, my jolly boys."
"Aye, aye, sir, aye, aye."
But he bade them hush and hastened with a boat. Thereupon, turning to me, "Get you back to the manor," says he. "No, I go with you," said I. He looked me up and down. "Tut, tut. Do you know where we're bound? For the South Sea, and on none of the king's business either." "You're going to steal the ship," said I. But they were shoving off the boat, and before ever he could answer, or I take thought, we found ourselves aboard, and rolling over the waves. Soon there fell a great barking of dogs from the direction of the manor, whereupon my brother did urge the rowers to greater effort. A few moments after we reached the ship. We went aboard at the gangway. There stood a big black-bearded fellow who passed on board in the style of the quartermaster. My brother spoke a word in his ear, and the man nodded. "All have joined Ouvery?" asked Dick.
"Aye, but the master and Surgeon Burke be aboard. They went not ashore with the rest."
"'Sdeath," said Dick with his teeth. "Where are they, then?"
"The master's in his cabin. Burke's in the roundhouse."
"Overboard with the master. Let him swim, the preaching swab. But we'll have need of Burke. Have up the men. I'll speak to him. Haste, Ouvery." He made to the quarter-deck as he spoke, while the other went below. Soon was heard the boatswain's whistle, and the mariners began to come up on deck. Meantime there came a splashing under the stern, and the master swam presently forth within sight. Having gotten his breath, he began to shout threats and imprecations at my brother, but Dick laughed and shook his finger at him, crying, "Nay, nay, sweet sir, be not so prodigal with your strength. I warrant you'll need all of it anon." On this, with a last imprecation, the swimmer turned, and incontinently made toward the shore. But the mariners were now gotten all up on deck, and my brother prepared to speak to them. But no speech was made by him, for a musket shot rang out on the shore, and some half-dozen men, led by the captain and the squire, came forth on the cliff. The captain, shouting and gesticulating with the smoking musket that he held, but our father stood like a man sore-stricken, so that it went to my heart to see him. I turned to my brother. "Go you no further with this," said I. "Return while yet you may." But he did not answer me. He stood staring to windward, and I saw his face set hard. A big ship, flying the flag of St. George, had hove in sight round a bend of the cliff. Next moment he turned, and bawling out, "In with the boat!" cried he. "All hands make sail! Up anchor and away!" There fell a great ado on this, as the mariners went to work to the shrill piping whistle of the boatswain, and the word of command. Soon the cable was hove in, while the seamen sang as they strained at the capstan. Soon the ship began to move, stretching away under her spritsail and topsails to the shore breeze. But the other vessel had hoisted up her top-gallant sails, and came on apace. And now, being but a cable's length away, she shot off a gun. "Come on, ye dogs!" cried Dick. "Fire away and split!" And he hastened to the poop, where the gunners worked, charging of the stern-chasers.
Double-shot 'em and cripple her," said he.
"Aye, aye, sir, aye, aye."
But now the pursuer fired again, and a round shot crashed into our roundhouse coach.
"Fire!"
And upon the word the guns belched forth flame. The report shook the ship, and a cloud of cannon smoke rolled up like a scroll. As it cleared, our men roared out with a great cheering, for we had hit the king's ship full in her fore-rigging, split her spritsail, smashed her foreyard, and handsomely mauled the shrouds. The foremast shook with the brunt, and the topsail came clattering down. Hereupon my brother fell to capering about like a silly schoolboy.
"Well done, Master Gunner," cried he. "Well done, my brave. Give him another cheer, my jolly boys. They'll not take us this bout."
End of chapter 1.